I'm Dr. David A. Bray, Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Federal Communications Commission. I think on the journey with the public sector and embracing the digital revolution, we are really at the tip of the iceberg, in the sense that the 1990s and early 2000 period, we made a lot of investment in client server, and that was good for the 1990s and 2000. However, the challenge now is client server is very expensive to maintain, and at least where I was at the FCC when I arrived about 20 months ago, one, there had been 9 CIOs in 8 years, and two, for an agency of only 750 people, they had 207 different systems. And so over the last 20 years, whenever there was a new effort, they actually just launched a new IT system. And that made sense probably at the time, but over time you just accumulate all these different legacy investments, all these aging servers that you now have on premise. That means that an ever-increasing amount of your budget is being spent just to maintain those systems as opposed to do new things for the public. So wanting to try and get out of this sort of trap of maintaining legacy, one of the things we've been doing at the FCC, and as well as with other public sector organizations, is to move to the cloud as quickly as we can. And so by the end of this summer, so 20 months after I arrived, we'll either have all our systems in the cloud or with a commercially managed service provider. We will not have actually any servers on site. One example of that is actually with our consumer help desk, which was 15 years old. We were trying to figure out how we modernized it. And the gold standard at the time for both the private sector and the public sector was you do it on-prem. It's what would be called big iron, so really expensive software and servers, and it was quoted to be anywhere between 3.2 million or up, and take about 1.5 years or 2 years to do. We actually looked instead as software as a service, and by doing it as software as a service, we got it done in less than 6 months for only $450,000. So 1/6 the price, and at least half the time, if not more. And so I think that's a model of what we want to do going forward for all public services. In order to serve the public better, as well as other organizations, can we look at software as a service or platform as a service, as opposed to trying to do it on-premise? The key challenges with moving wholesale to the cloud, I would say, are 80% people and culture and 20% technology. A lot of people have concerns about where is their data located. A lot of people have concerns about their custom processes they may have built into the systems they had on premise. Whereas if you move to the cloud, that might make it harder to actually build in your own custom processes. And you really have to tease out what are those processes that are absolutely essential to have that are unique, and what are those things that actually you can use a commodity-based process and you don't need to do it by yourself. At the FCC, we've adopted the model of adapt open source first and foremost, whether it be in the cloud ideally, or with a commercial managed service provider. If we can't find it open source, then we'll buy something. And if we can't buy something that meets our needs, only then will we actually write our own custom code. So we're trying to get out of the business of maintaining code because that's really expensive. The challenge, however, is it is huge institutional resistance. And it's also not just from the people that are incumbent in terms of the government itself. The average person at the FCC has been there for 15.5 years. The average contractor has been there for 18 years. And these are contractors that have built relationships with the government professionals. And so when I show up and say, we're going to move out of this model of maintaining expensive hardware and software on site and go instead to the cloud, I'm also disrupting friendships. And that's why I say any good leader has to recognize that you need to manage the friction of the organization in order to make the change. How do you actually bring the organization along and you can get them to where they go? In this case, as a CIO, we get them to the cloud, we actually make the progression we need to make, and we become more fast, more nimble, and more resilient as a result.